Welcome to the solution video for the Soda Machine Challenge on the console app, and this is part 2 of the console app challenge. So this challenge, we're going to kind of round out or finish the console user interface, which is our just the user side of things. Okay, so not the admin side. So let's jump right into the code. And here we have our code from last time. And if we open up the console UI and go to program.cs, we'll see we have these 6 cases that we have to do something with. So let's start with number 1, which is to show the soda price. All right, so let's just do show soda price, make that a method. We can control dot to create this method. And so now down here we have a private static void show soda price. We can do something in here. So what we need to do? Well, first we need to get the soda machine logic interface value. So that's soda machine logic instance. All right. In order to do that, we need to come up here to our service provider. Let's copy that and come down here. Now we could create one instance for the entire class, and yeah, I think we need to do that. We need to do that up here, because otherwise what happens is we'll reset the soda machine every time we call a different option, and that's not ideal. So even though we have our service provider, we're going to be getting this instance and using it for the entire main. So now we have registered services. What we can do is actually up here we can say private static, and it's I forget, it's an iSoda logic, is that what it's called? iSoda machine logic. And let's call this the soda machine. And then down here, what we'll do is after registered services, we're going to say soda machine equals service provider dot get service. We're going to ask for an iSoda machine logic, and that will get us our instance that we need. Now we are using dependency injection here, and it does seem like this is overkill, because we could have just said equals new and had our soda machine logic instance. However, don't forget that it does pass through and handle all of our dependencies. So soda machine var, let's just say machine info equals soda machine dot, and this is to get soda price. So get soda price, and that's actually going to give us back just a decimal. So in this case, we'll say soda price, and now we can say console write line, string interpolation. The price for soda is soda price. Now here's the one important thing we need to do. We need to figure out where we're going to do this. And that is that we need to have a console read line somewhere. Either we have a console read line after every method we call or after every case, or we can put one at the end here and have it be every time. I don't like it at the end only because when you hit case 9, as in close the machine, it's going to say thanks, have a nice day. We don't want to have you waiting for you to hit enter first. So that doesn't make sense to do it here. So I think it does make sense to do it in the methods. So console read line at the end here. And again, that's my custom snippet I created. So that's not built into Visual Studio. You'd have to do console.readline, type it out. And maybe we should put a console write line here. It says press enter to continue. Just to let the user know what to do, and probably put a blank line in between. So let's just try this out and see what we get for a result. I think this will work fine, but I want to make sure that it looks right before we start copying this pattern to other things. I got this message here, the just my code warning, and that's because right now we're in release mode. So I can say continue debugging. All right, so it says, welcome to the soda machine, make a selection. We're going to show the soda price. So hit 1, hit enter. The price for soda is 0.65. It's not formatted for a decimal, but it does have that press enter to continue. And now we're back to the screen. We can close the machine and quit. Okay. So let's change that soda price to be a currency value. So let's Control X to cut that out. And we'll do string.format. And we'll say that our format, first of all, is curly brace 0:C, close curly brace. And then paste in our decimal number. What this should do for us is it should format this value as the currency where you are located, where your machine thinks is located. Let me just hit stop real quick. Before we do this, I'm going to change this to debug mode just to stop that. I don't want it to be yelling at me every time, and I also don't want to say ignore this. So show soda price. Soda price is now has the dollar sign in front of it, so it's 65 cents. Okay, and now we can close out our window. All right, so we have our first one done, which is show soda price. And we'll follow the same kind of format as far as how it looks so that we can have a nice, clean user interface. And we might even do a console.clear before showing the... Let's do that. We're not going to get too deep in the weeds here, but I do want to have a really nice user interface. Here, the price for soda is 65 cents. Press enter. Press 9. Now it's more consistent. All right. So we'll follow the same kind of pattern for the other things that we do. List the soda options. So list soda options like so. And then we'll control dot to generate our method. And then we can actually hit F12 to go right to it. And now in here, we can start using this value. So just like down here, we can say var sodas equals soda machine dot, and this is list types of soda. And this should get us back a list of soda model. So let's follow our same pattern and start with console.clear. And then we're going to say console write line. The soda options are, and then we don't need that space there, I guess. And then we'll do a for each. So we can say sodas dot for each. Actually do console write line and say x dot name. I think that's all we need is a name. And then we'll have our blank line and these 3 lines at the end, like so. Now I do have some repetition in here, and I do always like to look for how I can not repeat myself. But in this case, I think that I'm going to leave it alone for now. Later, I might come back and create a method that's like standard ending or something like that, where it does those 3 lines just to make it consistent, but it's not saved me a whole lot of stuff. Okay, so all it would do is it provide a little bit of consistency. I'm not sure it's something I need to spend my time on right now. So let's just leave it as is. So list soda options. Now let's run this again. And this time we will list soda options. Soda options are Coke, Diet Coke, and Sprite. Press enter to continue. All right. So now we have that one done. Now let's show amount deposited. Let's do this. Let's skip that one and come to deposit money first. Because this way, if we create this, then we can check both. Okay, so deposit money first. So to deposit money, we're going to first get what to deposit. So which coin to deposit, and then we're going to deposit that amount. Okay, those are the two steps essentially. So to deposit that amount, we're going to say soda machine dot money inserted, and so we have a user ID, which we don't have yet, and a monetary amount. So we need to first capture a user ID, the user that is using this machine. Well, let's do this. Private static string user ID. And then what we'll do is when we first start the soda machine, we're going to initialize a user. So let's do that right here, I think. I don't want to do it right in line because of the fact that we may have to reinitialize a user if they were to leave. But for right now, what we're going to do is say user ID equals new GUID to string. So we're going to use a GUID as our identifier for our user, and we'll pass that around every time so that we use that same user ID for all of our different deposits. All right, so that's going to be our first value, money inserted. The next one is the amount that has been inserted. So this would be our amount added, like so. But we need to create that somehow. So what we'll do is we're going to first ask the user. So we'll do console write line, how much would you like to add to the machine? And then what we'll do is say string amount text equals console.readline. All right, and then what we'll do is we will say bool is valid amount equals decimal dot try parse amount text out decimal and amount added. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to ask the user, how much money would you like to put in the machine? We'll read that, and then we will parse that value into a decimal. If it's correct, it'll be greater than 0, otherwise it'll be 0. Now you may ask, well, Tim, couldn't they just say 37 cents? Which is not a valid coin or a valid amount to be inserted one at a time. And the answer is yes, they could. We could create a menu system for this, but I think it's overkill for this first version of this. We can just ask for an amount. Now in the future, we'll probably have some kind of menu system. And of course, if it's a real machine, it would tell them how much they put in based upon how it scanned that value. So it'd say, okay, you put a quarter in, that's therefore 25 cents. Or you put a dollar bill in, therefore it's $1. But I think for this, we can just ask the user for how much they want to put in. Now, this is a version 1. This is a version that we're using internally. I would not trust the user to give us a real amount. But in this case, we're going to trust them a little bit. But here's the deal. if they give us a number, if they say test instead of a number, well, then this amount added will be 0. So therefore, we'll insert 0 to their account. We're not going to add a real value. Now, if they tell me $900, I'm going to put $900 in on their credit. But I can't really control that anyway. The most I could do would be to say, here's a menu of your options. But if I even allow them a $1 bill, I believe we said $1 and $5 are okay. But if I allowed a $1 bill, they could run that 900 times without actually putting $1 in, obviously. Somewhere we'd have to wire up this to a payment system of some kind. But here's the really cool part. It's just this right here that needs to get swapped out. That's it. So we could swap that out, I don't want to say simply, but it's one entry point. That's all we have to swap out. And now we have it hooked up to a cash payment system or a credit payment system or something like that, where we gather the information automatically. Or this could be that this is in the hands of a cashier who is typing in how much money they gave them. So not going to worry too much about this right now. All right, so is valid amount, if they give us a valid decimal number, it will parse and it'll put that value into amount added, which will get added to their credit. Otherwise, it won't. Let's go back up here and now work on show amount deposited. So show amount deposited. And we're going to do control dot here to generate that method, F12 to go to it. These little shortcuts make creating code much, much easier. All right, so show amount deposited, var amount deposited equals, not service provider, soda machine dot, and this is get money inserted total. That's the user ID. We pass in user ID, and that should give us back a decimal, which is our amount deposited. So we can follow the same pattern we have down here. So copy that and come back up here. And say, you have deposited, and then pass in the amount deposited. All right, so let's try now these two methods at once. Because we can deposit money. So let's first show deposit amount, because that should be 0. You deposited 0. All right, so let's deposit some money. How much? Oh, we need to clear there. So we need to fix that. How much money you like to add to the machine? Let's say 0.50 for 50 cents. Okay, and then we're going to deposit again. And we're going to say 0.25. And now show amount deposited, number 3. You deposited 75 cents. So that is working. So we can now, whoops, one too many enters there. We can now fix that one bug, which is deposit money needs a console.clear. Like so. And now we can move on to cancel transaction. We can control dot on here to create that method, then F12 to go to it. And this throw new not implement exception, which is I'm getting rid of each time, this is really helpful, because if I were to not do anything with this code, then if I try to run it, it will throw an exception, which is good. I don't want to assume the code is in there when it's not really in there. So cancel transaction. So we're going to say soda machine dot issue full refund for the user ID. All right, so it's going to issue a full refund. And that's it. Basically, it's going to eject all the money that I put into it. So let's just verify this works by first putting some money in. So deposit money. Let's deposit, let's do 0.85. Let's make sure it's there by saying, show me it. Yep, 0.85 is there, 85 cents. Now let's cancel transaction. And it didn't really do anything. It kind of just went back to that same screen. Okay, maybe you should put some messaging in there to tell us your transaction has been canceled. Okay, and maybe we get the amount that we're refunding to. So, but now let's check how much money is in our account, and it is 0. So that's good. Okay, so we should probably show how much we're going to give for refund. So let's just say, let's do the amount deposited first, and then issue the refund, and then we can do our console messages. And you have been refunded amount deposited, and press any key to continue. Let's try this and make sure it looks right. I think it should. Let's first deposit 0.85, and now let's cancel that transaction. You have been refunded 85 cents. Press enter to continue. All right, so let's change that one wording. You have been refunded and the amount. Okay, so that takes care of everything but number 6, which is to request soda. Now, so far this has been pretty easy. Easy as in just kind of follow the steps. Not saying that the code is necessarily easy. I hate using the word easy because if you don't get it, then it's like, oh man, I should know that. It should be easy. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is simplistic comparatively to what's coming up. Okay, so we followed the similar patterns. We've done a couple lines of actual code, and then just basically telling the user what we did. Now we're going to get into a little bit more with this request soda. So let's talk through what we need to do. First of all, we need to identify which soda the user wants. All right, which probably involves, first of all, showing them the list of sodas that are available, and then from there, and we have a method in here, list soda options. Let's copy that. Just as code. Let's copy the V2. And then up here, we will paste that in. So now you've got the list of soda, and we can say, which soda would you like? And then instead of doing this for each like this, actually, I think we can do that. So let's say var I equals 1. aha, we do have to have the console read line at the end. So let's put these 3 at the end so we can actually see what's going on here. Okay, 6. And now you can see it says 1 for Coke, 2 for Diet Coke, and 3 for Sprite. All right, so we've now numbered these values so that we can ask the user which number do they want. All right, so which soda number would you like? And we're going to capture that value. So string soda number, soda identifier equals console.readLine. And that will capture the identifier for which number that they want. All right. And from there, what we can do is we can parse this and then convert it back to the value for the sodas. So if they say 1, that's soda at position 0. If they say 2, it's soda at position 1. Because don't forget, for humans, for normal people, they count starting at 1. For computers and for most of our lists, we typically start at position 0. So you do have to do 1 subtraction. Now, one of the things you might not have noticed is how I did the numbering. That's I++ right here. So what happens is it's going to show the value of I, and then it's going to add 1 to it. If I had ++I, it would increment the value of I, and then it would show that new number. Okay, so the incrementation happens after we show the value. So that's how we got the I counting up. That's why I started at 1, not at 0, because the first one to be shown will be 1, since that's the starter, and then it will count up to number 2, or increment to number 2. Okay, so now we have this soda identifier. Hopefully they gave us a valid one. So we can do a few different things if they don't. But we could just say, you know what? Press enter to continue. So we can basically do an if statement here. Let's do that. If, actually, before we do it, we have to parse this. So bool is valid identifier equals int dot try parse soda identifier out int, and then let's soda number. So now this out int soda number means we're going to declare in line the soda number variable. We did that earlier. I didn't point it out, but when you have an out variable, you can declare the constructor, or can declare the declaration of that right in line. And that starts in C#6, I believe, was when that was added. So now we can just say out int soda number. We don't have to have up here somewhere else int soda number equals 0 and then say out soda number. We can just say out int soda number and it declares it right away. So if is valid identifier. So it's a valid identifier. just kick them back to the menu if they don't give us a valid number. But if they do give us a valid number, then we can request that soda. So let's look at what we have to work with. So soda machine dot, and it is request soda. So we need first the soda to request, and then the user ID. Well, a soda request is sodas, and then it's going to be soda number -1. And then you pass in the user ID. Like so. And that should get us back a tuple with soda and the change and the error message. All right. So you can say var results equals in this this request. All right. So we're going to get the value from the sodas array or sodas list. We're going to get the value of soda number -1, which in theory is going to be I is, if I is 1 or soda number is 1, then it's going to be 0. So 1 minus 1 is 0. If it's 2, then it's going to be 1, and so on, and hopefully gives us a valid number. Now, this can still throw an exception. And I'm not a big fan of that. So let's do this. Let's say var soda. Actually, not var. We're actually going to give it the, it's a soda model. Control dot here to add that using statement. Soda model and soda. And then what we'll do is we're going to do a try catch. And we don't even worry about which exception we're going to catch here. There's only one we could catch. And what we'll do is we will say soda equals sodas at soda number -1. Okay? So we don't even have to do this is valid identifier anymore. We can actually get rid of this. And we can get rid of this as well. There we go. And bring us back. So what's going to happen here is if we do a try parse and it fails, so I type in test instead of a number, then it's going to say that soda number is 0. 0 minus 1 is -1. Is there a soda at -1, position -1? No, there's not. That will throw an exception, an index out of range exception, which this try catch will catch. If they give us a number, it's a valid number, but let's say it's 5. Well, there is no soda at position 5. Another index out of range exception. In which case, what we'll do is we'll come to the same catch. So either way, we're going to get the same error, and we'll hit the catch. And we're going to say console write line that was not a valid soda identifier, which is true either way, because if they type test, that's not a valid soda identifier. If we don't have an error message, then what we're going to do is we're going to say console write line. Let's start with string interpolation. Here is your, and we're going to say results dot, let's call it soda dot name. So here's your Coke, or here's your Diet Coke. Okay, and then let's have one more if statement here. If, and we're going to say results dot change dot count is greater than 0, then we're going to say your change is, or let's say here's your change. Like so. And then we'll do a results, if I can spell, change dot for each. And we're going to say x dot name. So console write line, x dot name is fine, I think. And then else here to say there is no change. So let's put in some money. Let's deposit some money. Let's deposit, oh, I don't know, 0.85. All right. So a soda is 65 cents. So we're 20 cents over, which would be 2 dimes in return. And now we can check to make sure. Yes, we have 85 cents. Now I can request a soda. I want a Coke. Here's your Coke, and here's your change, a dime and a dime. Press enter to continue. Oh, we need to clear first. So let's do that. Let's get our clear in place. So at the very, what kind of soda do you like? If it's successful, we need to do another console.clear. Fire up the menu options from part 1 and make sure that each method does what it says it's going to do and properly reports back to the user. Yep, we did that. And the bonus challenge, verify that the various edge cases work with the user interface. such as running out of change and the user not providing enough money to purchase a soda. We didn't run out of change. Let's figure out how to do that. Let's make it really simple here. Go to coins, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarters in our text file. Now we have none. Gotta save that. Gotta run it again. So if we have no quarters, we can't give back quarters as change. So now let's deposit some money. So deposit some money, we're going to say that we want 115, which should be 2 quarters in return. All right. So now I'm going to buy a soda, and I'm going to ask for a Sprite, and I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dimes as my change because we have no quarters. So we verified that in fact it does work properly even when we don't have the quarters that are normally supposed to be there. Okay, so if we run out of change, not a problem. It's going to give us what change we do have. But what if we ran out of change entirely? Well, let's wipe this whole thing out. Save it. Remember that this is going to update every time. So it's going to copy always. That's why we got the new value. So we're going to run it again. And we're going to say we're going to deposit some money. And we're going to deposit 0.75 is fine. And now we're going to request a soda. And we haven't requested a Diet Coke yet, so let's request one of those. There's not enough coins to give you change. Press enter to continue. Let's make sure we do have money still though. So yes, we have 75 cents. So therefore, let's go back to the main menu and let's cancel a transaction. Interfaces, it's going to push your C# knowledge in ways you otherwise might not. That's why I really try to bring in these other types to get you to try different things out. We're going to move on to other prettier user interfaces and make a much more visual soda machine at some point. But for right now, I just want you to have this running so you can kind of get used to some of these additional logic things you have to think through. Because really, console comes down to just logic. There's very little user interface to get in the way. And when you have that just logic, sometimes it's stressful. When I said earlier that something was easy because it had only a few lines of code, sometimes those few lines of code are hard to get on the paper, to get on in the IDE, in Visual Studio. And I get that. Even though looking back at it looks like, man, that was easy. That was simple. Well, those 2 lines can be complicated sometimes. And so figure out how to do this, getting the experience, just writing this code will really grow and push your knowledge when it comes to the actual C# code and the logic of it. So I would encourage you to go back through, try it again, maybe implement in your version, implement the admin functions as well. Just see what happens, okay? Again, the purpose here is not just to check off a box saying, I built an app. The purpose here is to grow your skills. So definitely take advantage of that. Spend the time and grow your skills. You can't grow your skills by just watching me. Do the work, okay? So that's my challenge to you. Hopefully that you've got some skills already, you've grown some skills while going through this with me. All right. Thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.